my traumatized babies and mentally ill Barbies. If I'm looking funky, it is because I just got done with my jog and I just wanted to get this out. It was bugging me. I was like, oh, well, no, I can take a shower and do this and that and then talk about this topic and upload it. But like, no, it's bugging me. I have to talk about it now for those who follow the manifestation content, because it's impossible to get all of the issues and discussions about manifestation and its intricacies into one video, even if manifestation is simple. And that is because while it is simple, once we start trying to talk about it, right? Once we start trying to explain it, then we open up all of these very, very nuanced topics of discussion. And the one I want to talk about today is personal reality versus consensus reality, because it's two separate things, and manifestation, while its mechanics work the same way in both realities, it is also different. Like the way we talk about certain things is different. And the reason why this is bugging me is because when I released the video about algorithmic manifestation, the example I used for the state of engagement was talking about, like, let's say you attract or you materialize. What appears in your materiality, like, is a horrible, terrible racist and then a cool, decolonialized person, whatever. But because this person is maybe triggering you and attracting more attention, you engage with the racist or whatever. Now, that is not untrue. Like, you don't, like, you want to engage with the decolonial, like, you want to engage with this person over here, not this person over here. If you want to, like, keep, like, fix this thing into your materiality. The more you engage with the terrible, horrible racist, the more that is going to stay in your personal reality. Your personal reality, okay? Personal reality is not the same thing as consensus reality, okay? And the reason why I want to talk about this is because the way that I framed the example for the state of engagement, while it is true, it comes in line with, if I don't talk about this, the shit in the law of attraction why I'm saying we're beyond the law of attraction. And that is, if you would stop paying attention to racism, racism wouldn't exist. That's not true. And that is not what I meant by that example. So I am very sorry if it came across that way. And I'm going to get into the nuance of that discussion now. So now, for my manifestation practice and the way I curate my personal reality, I, day to day, tend to not deal with racists or racism in the sense that, you know, I'm not seeing very many material demonstrations of it. But then I really wouldn't, because I'm not Black. I'm also not Asian. So that's not going to intrude so much on my personal reality, right? Because that's different for other people. Though people of color can curate a decent portion of their personal realities to not deal with that as much. But it's as much, okay? So there's a reason why my personal reality is potentially a bit safer than someone else's. So when I push something out of my personal reality, that does not mean that it's gone. Because day to day, I am not dealing with racists and homophobes and fatphobes and trans, because I'm not dealing with that day to day, doesn't mean that it is not going on, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. That is still happening in consensus reality. And consensus reality still affects me. So while I'm not dealing with misogynists screaming in my face every day, Roe v. Wade still affects me as a woman, okay? Or as a female with female reproductive organs. That still affects me. Just because I have dematerialized horrible misogynists out of my personal reality, that doesn't mean that consensus reality, that's still not in operation. And so that is the difference between personal reality and consensus reality. Consensus reality is the product of all of us manifesting. Okay, it's everybody's kind of personal reality all pushed into like one big globule. And that's what people are talking about when they're talking about different dimensions and timelines. It's because people are all like some people are manifesting like radically different things. And so it's like really hard to engage with someone who's on a radically different dimension or frequency than yourself and timeline, because you're not, like, most people aren't, well, I am going to say most people aren't like weirdo death cult Christo-fascists who want to see like the actual second coming of like, most people aren't like that. But there's like a radical strain of people who are very much in operation within systems of power who do. And their personal faith beliefs are being inflicted upon us. And that is injustice. Like, even though I'm mostly in line with a lot of the Christian mysteries, I don't believe in that. I do not believe that my faith beliefs should be affecting everyone's reality. Okay, that's not for me to decide. That's why faith and religion is supposed to be separate from policy, because all of us have different beliefs. All of us have different views on like what to worship, and if you are worshiping, because I don't think you should worship anything. That's so radically different that for the greater good, we can't put that into policy. It's wrong to do because it is going to end up oppressing somebody. And stifling their authentic truth. That's why it should be. In theory, it's supposed to be absent from public policy. It is most definitely not, but I think it should be. So that is also why when we talk about things like magic and spirituality and energy, that when we're talking about consensus reality, science is still going to be supreme there. Things that we, to the best of our current understanding and technology, what we have a good amount of evidence and data for. In general, those are the things that we want to use to make changes on consensus reality. All right, and we can affect that most definitely, because there are big shifts that I want to see in consensus reality, but the fact of the matter is, I don't know if most people are going to be down with that, and it also might not be actually good for the greater good. It's up to the greater good to decide whether or not they want total human liberation or not. But when it comes to consensus reality, I know that a lot of spiritual or energetic or woo people can get very frustrated with the way that science moves. But for me, it's not really the way science moves, because typically you want changes to consensus reality to be slow and to be backed up by data. You're gonna have to convince people. And even though data doesn't really convince people, it is emotions, I would still say that for changes to consensus reality, we should still be predominantly relying on science, yes, to create that sort of order, and not someone's faith beliefs or practices, including mine. So just to get that out of the way. But that is why consensus reality moves as it does. Most people, I don't think, are actually upset with like the pace of science or what science does. It's more how like science will get very dismissive of things that don't fall within its framework, right? Like, nobody likes to be talked down to. Nobody likes to be spoken to like they're a freaking idiot. And a lot of people who are completely on the rationalist, materialist, scientist side get very, very like ugly towards people who have a magical frame, who have a spiritual frame, an animistic frame, a shamanic frame, whatever. They're just like, oh, those people are stupid, those people are crazy. That's not the way, in my opinion, but it is also not the way for those of us who have a magical frame to get completely dismissive of science either, okay? Like, we can work together. It's just like I say, we have to come together with respect. So that is a difference between personal reality and consensus reality. Now, here is how, using that example, you would use the state of engagement to create social change. on an individual level, obviously, because to create change within consensus reality, that takes a lot of people operating in a specific way. That's when consensus reality changes. You need more people operating the same way together in a different way, and then reality shifts, okay? So, how do you dissolve racism, continually dissolve racism with the state of engagement? Because it is not simply you stop paying attention to racists and racists don't exist. That's not true. What you do, well, first of all, you've got to you do the inner work. You've got to dismantle racism within yourself. And that's a long process. You can do, like, obviously you can read all the critical race theory and bell hooks and everybody else, and like, definitely. But mostly what that involves is listening to Black people, listening to people of color, just paying attention, and it's all out there. It's all out there on the internet. Plenty of channels. You can listen to so many Black people and other people of color talk about what's going on. And listening to those discussions without participating in them, just take it in. That's how you start that process, especially when you feel uncomfortable about something. When you start to feel uncomfortable about something, ask yourself why. And don't get in the comments and start reacting. Just I don't like, this doesn't feel good. Sit with it and try to figure out why it doesn't feel good to hear a certain thing. Some of it, because obviously, Black people aren't perfect. Some Black people really have horrible prejudices against white people, and that's coming usually from a valid place and a valid experience, but I would say it's not especially helpful. But there's that aspect of it, and then there's the aspect of it of maybe someone's pointing something out to you that you didn't understand before, that you in fact have been participating in unconsciously, ignorantly, unknowingly. And so you've been unknowingly doing harm. You didn't know, but now someone's pointing it out to you, so you feel bad because you didn't know, and it's making you uncomfortable to understand how we, or you, or whatever, have participated in the systems of white supremacy unknowingly. Okay, so there's that part, the personal part, the therapeutic part, the energetic part. The material part is, voting, participating in the political arena with the system, because usually, you don't have to, people think they have to, create, we got to create, all these new groups. There are already groups in place. There are already, communities who have been doing this work for a while that are usually run by people of color. Already, they are going to be the ones directing the authority in that case. You can volunteer with those groups. You can send money to those groups, and support those groups in whatever way. And then completely on the individual scale, right? How diverse is, and here's the thing, you got to organically do this. You can't just be like, oh, well, I'm going to go get an Asian friend. That's not, how diverse is your circle? Why or why not? Are you only interacting with white people? Are you only interacting with Black people for a minute? How homogenous is your circle? And the thing is, usually people's inner circles might be a little bit more homogenous, but if it's your entire social group is only straight people, is a little bit, I question it, unless you're in a very, very small community where, but even then, there are still queer people, that doesn't happen. So I would ask yourself that question. And also interpersonally, yes, you don't pay racist, you pay attention to the people and throw your engagement in with the people who are already doing the work, who are already dismantling the system, who are already dissolving these things. That's what you engage in. You don't completely ignore the issue. It's just, what is the point of engaging with Alex Jones? What is the point? What is the point of paying attention to that? That's useless. Reacting to that is useless. And I mean it for reaction channels too. Unless they are somehow leveraging like the attention that they're getting from drama into some kind of like productive community system or redistribution of wealth, I don't tend to see that. I tend to see people just enriching themselves and participating in drama by kind of playing to the cheap seats and reacting to stuff that's like, oh, this person's like a hot like the Jordan Peterson stuff and all of that. It's very easy views. It's very easy to point the finger and react to that. It's like, look at this terrible, like, joke of a man. And it's also like, well, high key predating on somebody else's suffering, whether or not you agree with him or not. I do not agree with Jordan Peterson. I do find him to be very despicable. But I also, what I see is someone going through a freaking meltdown and other people like jumping on that to profit off of it like a pack of freaking vultures and hyenas. It's weird. It's vampirism. It's like just better to stop paying attention to him for his own health. Like, he can't stop, so we need to stop. Like, get him into a situation where he's isolated and has to deal with himself. Jesus. So that's what I mean by that. We don't engage with don't engage with the circus. If you engage with the circus, you perpetuate the circus. Engage with the people who are doing productive things that you believe in, that you would like to see come to fruition. That is what you engage with. And that is what I mean by that example. Not just ignore racism and racism goes away. And it's the same for everything else. If you want to see transphobia go away, I don't give a shit about J.K. Rowling. I give a shit about House of Tulip, which is a nonprofit locally down here that was created by a Black trans woman and is supporting and benefiting trans and gender non-conforming homeless kids and people here, okay? That is what you engage with. That is what you get behind. Not, look what J.K. Rowling, I don't care what she did. I don't care what she did other than like, you know, she's a person with a lot of money who could be doing better things with it, probably. So that is what I mean by that. Because I don't believe in bypassing, obviously. You have to see reality, accept reality, and move through reality to change reality. So you've got to accept the white supremacy. You've got to realize it, you've got to see it, realize it, accept it, and then go, oh, and then move through it to get out of the white supremacy. That is how that works. You can't just bypass and go, oh, I'm just not going to deal with racists, and so because I don't have to deal with it, nobody's dealing with it. Patently false. Patently false consensus reality exists. Solipsism is wrong. It's false. You are not everyone is not you pushed out, okay? That's like not the way it works. There is some truth to oneness. But again, I am not a big oneness person because people are mostly full of shit when they are talking about oneness. Why? Because I don't see anybody saying that they are one with Hitler. But that is what is called of you. Are you one with the serial killers and the rapists, the PDF files? Are you one with all that? Are you one with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey, are you one? Are you one with that? I want to hear it because I don't want to hear oneness from people who actually don't believe that. They actually aren't getting into the reality and what oneness entails. That is why I don't talk about that for the most part. I talk about interconnection and interdependence and community. But yes, I acknowledge oneness, but not in the trite way. If you are not, I believe the poem is Call Me By My True Name by Rumi. If you're not over there, go read that poem. If you're not over there, if you're not dealing with it in that way, I don't want to hear about it. Okay, that's all there is to it. But I just wanted to get that out because when I was thinking about that example, I was like, oh shit, like if I don't clarify that I do not mean that we're just ignoring fundamental issues with society and it just goes away. That's not at all what I meant by that. there is a difference between personal reality and consensus reality within manifestation. And depending on who you are going to have more agency over your personal reality than another person. Especially when you're going out into, like you have your little bubble of personal reality, but you're going out into, we live in a society, out into society, right? A fat person is going to have a different experience than a thin person, okay? And they are not going to be in total control of how people react to them. And it is the same thing for a Black person. So obviously, my experience of consensus reality is not really going to involve police harassment. It is not going to involve me walking into a store and being followed because someone thinks I'm going to steal something based on how I look. That's not because I'm super good at manifesting. It's because I have particular privileges that other people don't. Okay? So I just want to put that out there that there's a difference, and I did not mean to, if it came across as very surface level, I am very sorry about that. And I wanted to extrapolate on how you would use the state of engagement to create social change and not bypass, because this one thing with the law of attraction, there's a lot of bypassing in that system, a lot of solipsism, a lot of BS when it comes to low vibe and high, we've got to get past it. We've got to get past it. Hold on to the things in the law of attraction and that particular frame and content that are perennial, because there are, I'm going to have to get into that. I'm going to have to make a video about good things about the law of attraction, because I'm usually out here shitting on it and criticizing it, and not everything about it is bad. Just like the Bible and the Quran and everything else. Some things we don't need, some things are really great and useful, depending on the time. You can grow out of those things too. But so anyway, the difference between personal reality and consensus reality, and also depending on who you are, you will have more or less agency even over your personal reality. But what I would want most people to be able to have way more of going forward is a lot more agency over their personal reality, and seeing consensus reality shift way more for the actual greater good of people. That part is going to be a lot of hard work, because we have a lot of different ideas of what is for the greater good.